The airport taxi pulled up to the gleaming entrance of the Grand Plaza Hotel. Pam stepped out, stretching her back after the long flight. Her simple jeans and light sweater were a far cry from her usual business attire. Dark circles hung under her eyes, and her usually perfect hair was tied back in a messy ponytail. "Just the carry-on, thanks," she told the driver, handing him a generous tip. She'd packed light on purpose. This wasn't meant to be a normal visit. The revolving doors spun her into the hotel's massive lobby. Crystal chandeliers hung from ceilings that seemed to touch the sky. Marble floors gleamed under her worn sneakers. A grand piano sat in the corner, its melody floating through the space. Pam took a deep breath. The Grand Plaza was supposed to be the crown jewel of the hotel chain she'd recently been hired to oversee, but reports of dropping customer satisfaction scores and staff issues had reached the head office. Her job was to find out what was really happening here, without anyone knowing who she really was. She approached the front desk where 3 staff members chatted among themselves, barely acknowledging the new guest. One young man with a name tag reading Tyler finally looked up, his eyes quickly scanning her casual appearance. "Checking in?" he asked, his tone flat. No smile, no welcome. "Yes, I have a reservation under Pam Bondi." She placed her ID on the counter. Tyler tapped at his computer without enthusiasm. 3 nights? Actually, it might be longer. I'm not sure yet, he sighed dramatically. We're nearly fully booked this week because of the conference. Extending might not be possible. Pam nodded, watching how he failed to offer any solutions. I understand. I'll let you know as soon as I can. Tyler slid her key cards across the counter. Room 714, 7th floor. Elevators are over there. He pointed vaguely behind her, already looking past her to chat with his coworker. Actually, I have a few questions about the hotel, Pam said. Tyler's eyes returned to her, narrowing slightly. What kind of questions? Do you offer room service around the clock? What time does the pool close? Is there a business center I can use? With each question, Tyler's expression grew more annoyed. Room service ends at 11. Pool's open until 10. Business center's on the 2nd floor. His answers came in staccato bursts, clearly wanting the interaction to end. A woman with a manager's badge approached. Is everything okay here? Before Pam could answer, Tyler jumped in. Just helping with some questions. All set now. His tone suggested Pam had been particularly demanding. The manager, whose badge read Rita, gave Pam a tight smile. Anything else we can help you with? Yes, actually. I noticed online that your hotel restaurant was recently renovated. What would you recommend there? Rita's smile didn't reach her eyes. Everything's good. Very busy, though. You'll need a reservation. She glanced at Pam's casual clothes, clearly making assumptions. Also, Pam continued, I may need to host a small meeting. What options do you have for that? Rita and Tyler exchanged a look, a silent communication that screamed, another difficult guest. Our conference rooms can be booked through the app or website, Rita explained, her voice taking on the slow cadence one might use with a child. There are fees involved, of course. Of course, Pam replied, watching their reactions carefully. And how's the turn-down service here? I've heard it's quite special. Another look between the staff members. It's standard, Rita said curtly. Anything else? Pam caught sight of another staff member behind the desk, rolling her eyes. Perfect. This was exactly the kind of interaction she needed to observe. No, that should be all for now. Thank you for your help. Pam picked up her small suitcase and headed toward the elevators. As she walked away, she heard Rita's hushed voice. Another one who thinks she's a hotel expert because she watches travel shows. The elevator doors closed, and Pam leaned against the wall, deep in thought. The first impression wasn't good. No welcome, no warmth, and clear disdain for guest questions. She took out her phone and made a few quick notes while the details were fresh. The 7th floor hallway was elegantly decorated but showed signs of where that management might not notice. A small tear in the wallpaper here, a scuff mark there. Pam made more mental notes as she found room 714. Inside, the room was spacious and well-appointed, though she immediately spotted a missing light bulb and one lamp and water spots on the bathroom ceiling. She unpacked her few belongings and changed into fresh clothes, still keeping her look casual. Her stomach growled, reminding her she hadn't eaten since the airplane's sad excuse for a meal. She decided to try the hotel restaurant, curious to see if the service there matched her front desk experience. The restaurant, called the Plaza Grill, was half full when she arrived. A host looked up from his phone as she approached. "Table for one?" he asked, not bothering to hide his boredom. "Yes, please." He grabbed a menu and led her to a small table near the kitchen doors, easily the worst spot in the restaurant, despite many better tables sitting empty. "Your server will be with you shortly," he said, already turning away. Pam settled in, observing the restaurant operations. Servers clustered in corners, chatting while guests tried to catch their attention. Food sat under heat lamps too long before being delivered. A manager was nowhere to be seen. After 15 minutes, a server finally approached her table. "Ready to order?" No introduction, no specials mentioned. "I was wondering what you'd recommend," Pam said with a friendly smile. "I'm new here." The server, whose name tag read Jen, shrugged. "The salmon's okay. So is the burger." "Not exactly a ringing endorsement," Pam said with a small laugh. Jen didn't smile back. "Kitchen's busy tonight. What would you like?" "I'll try the salmon then. Anything to drink?" "Just water is fine. Also, could you tell me a bit about the hotel? I might be staying for a while." Jen's posture stiffened. "I just work in the restaurant. You should ask the front desk about that stuff." "I already did, but I'd love to hear your perspective too." "How long have you worked here?" Jen's eyes darted around as if looking for escape. "About 2 years." "Look, I need to put your order in." As Jen walked away, Pam watched her stop at another server station and whisper something. Both looked back at Pam's table with barely concealed annoyance. The salmon, when it finally arrived 30 minutes later, was overcooked and lukewarm. Jen dropped it off without asking if Pam needed anything else. The water glass remained empty despite Pam's attempts to get someone's attention. When she finally managed to get the check, Pam left a generous tip despite the poor service. She had learned long ago that being remembered as a bad tipper would only make her future observations more difficult. On her way out of the restaurant, she overheard Jen talking to the host. "She kept asking me questions about the hotel like I'm some tour guide. Then left a big tip like that makes it okay to waste my time." Pam smiled to herself. Day one was already revealing exactly what she needed to see. Back in her room, she kicked off her shoes and opened her laptop. She created a detailed document outlining every interaction she'd had since arriving, noting names, times, and specific service failures. Tomorrow, she would explore more of the hotel facilities and observe how different departments operated. Her phone buzzed with a text from her boss back at headquarters. "Settled in? Any first impressions?" Pam typed back. "Definitely found the right hotel to start with. They have no idea who I am and it's perfect. Give me 3 days before I reveal myself." She closed her laptop and walked to the window, looking out at the city lights. The Grand Plaza had once been the flagship hotel of the entire chain, a reputation built on impeccable service and attention to detail. Somewhere along the way, that culture had been lost. Pam smiled to herself. By the time she was done, things would be very different around here. But first, she needed to see exactly how deep the problems went. And tomorrow would bring plenty more opportunities for the staff to show their true colors. Never suspecting that the casually dressed woman asking too many questions would soon hold their careers in her hands. Pam woke early the next morning, sunlight streaming through the gap in the curtains she'd deliberately left open. She reached for her phone. 6:15 a.m. Perfect timing to observe the morning shift change and breakfast service. After a quick shower, she dressed in another casual outfit, dark jeans and a simple blouse. She added minimal makeup and pulled her hair into a loose bun. The goal was to blend in, to be forgettable enough that staff would speak freely around her. Her first stop, the hotel gym. The equipment was top of the line but showed signs of poor maintenance. 2 treadmills had out-of-order signs taped to their screens. The water cooler was empty, and used towels were piled high in the collection bin. A single attendant sat at the desk, deeply absorbed in his phone. He didn't look up when Pam entered, or when she pointedly cleared her throat. Only when she stood directly in front of him did he finally acknowledge her presence. "Morning," he mumbled, barely making eye contact. "Good morning," Pam replied cheerfully. "Is there any water available?" "The cooler's empty." The young man, his name tag read Trevor, sighed dramatically. "I'll have someone bring some up." He made no move to call anyone or get up himself. "Great, thank you. Also, I noticed some of the equipment isn't working." Trevor shrugged. "Yeah, maintenance knows about it." Do you know when it might be fixed? I was hoping to use the treadmill. No idea. Probably not today. He turned his attention back to his phone, the conversation clearly over in his mind. Pam spent 15 minutes pretending to stretch while discreetly making notes on her phone. No water ever arrived. 2 more guests entered the gym during this time, and Trevor showed them the same level of indifference. Next stop, breakfast service. The hotel's main restaurant was busier now, filled with business travelers and families starting their day. Pam took a seat at a small table in the corner, where she could observe the entire operation. A harried-looking server eventually made her way to Pam's table, dropping off a menu without a word. Pam noticed her name tag, Diane. Busy morning? Pam asked with a sympathetic smile. Diane glanced around the packed restaurant. We're understaffed again. There was resignation in her voice rather than anger. That must be difficult. Has it been like this for long? Something in Pam's tone, genuine interest perhaps, made Diane pause. Months. People keep quitting, and management keeps promising new hires that never show up. She seemed surprised by her own candor. Anyway, what can I get you? Just coffee and toast, please. I don't want to add to your workload. Diane's expression softened slightly. Thanks. I'll be right back with your coffee. Pam watched the breakfast service unfold like a case study in mismanagement. Servers rushed between tables without coordination. Food sat under heat lamps while guests waited. A manager briefly appeared, barked some orders at the staff, and disappeared again without helping. Despite the chaos, Pam noticed something interesting. Diane and 2 other servers were working extraordinarily hard, covering for their less motivated colleagues. There were bright spots amid the dysfunction, staff worth saving when the time came for changes. After breakfast, Pam explored the hotel's public areas. The once grand lobby showed subtle signs of neglect: dusty artificial plants, scuffed furniture, fingerprints on glass surfaces. The business center's printer was out of paper, and half the computers had error messages on their screens. At the concierge desk, a middle-aged man was arguing with a guest about theater tickets. I specifically told you I needed orchestra seats, not balcony, the guest insisted. The concierge, appalled according to his name tag, kept a frozen smile in place. As I explained yesterday, sir, orchestra seats weren't available. I got you the best possible alternative. Pam lingered nearby, pretending to read a brochure while listening. The concierge never apologized or offered any solution. Eventually, the guest stormed off, ticket envelope crumpled in his fist. When Pam approached the desk moments later, Paul was still visibly annoyed. Some people, he muttered to a colleague. Nothing is ever good enough. Pam cleared her throat. Excuse me, I was wondering if you could recommend a good place for lunch nearby. Something within walking distance? Paul's eyes flicked over her casual attire. The hotel restaurant serves lunch starting at 11. I was hoping to explore the area a bit, Pam explained. With obvious reluctance, Paul pulled out a city map and circled a spot. There's a sandwich place 2 blocks east. Thanks. Also, I might need to host a small meeting tomorrow. What's the process for booking a conference room? Paul's expression soured further. You'll need to speak with events. Their office is on the mezzanine level. Got it. One last question. Does the hotel offer any special services for business travelers? I might be staying longer than planned. Everything's in the welcome packet in your room, Paul replied, already looking past her to the next guest. Pam thanked him and moved on, adding more observations to her growing list. The events office was her next stop. Unlike the front-facing staff, the events coordinator, a woman named Lisa, was professional and helpful. She showed Pam various meeting room options, discussed catering possibilities, and provided a clear breakdown of costs. This is exactly what I needed, Pam said sincerely. It's refreshing to get such thorough assistance. Lisa smiled. I've been here 15 years. This hotel used to be special. We had waiting lists for events. Things have changed in recent years. How so? Lisa hesitated, clearly measuring her words. New management has different priorities. Cost-cutting has affected everything from staffing to maintenance. She straightened a stack of brochures. But you didn't hear that from me. Pam nodded, making a mental note to remember Lisa when the time came for rebuilding the hotel's leadership team. After lunch at the sandwich shop, Paul had grudgingly recommended, which turned out to be excellent, Pam returned to the hotel and headed for the pool area. The space was beautiful, a large indoor pool with a glass ceiling, lush plants, and comfortable seating. But here too problems were evident. Wet towels lay uncollected on several loungers. The hot tub was roped off with a handwritten "closed for repairs" sign that looked weeks old. The attendance station was unmanned. 2 housekeepers were chatting nearby as they restocked a linen cabinet. Pam approached them with a smile. "Excuse me, are there any fresh towels available?" The older housekeeper, Patty, pointed to a nearly empty shelf. "Just those few left. We're waiting on laundry to send more up." "I see. Also, do you know when the hot tub might be working again?" The two exchanged glances. "It's been broken for almost a month," the younger woman said. "Management keeps saying they've ordered the part." Pam nodded sympathetically. "That must be frustrating for you, having to explain that to guests all day." Something in her understanding tone made both housekeepers relax slightly. "You have no idea," Patty sighed. "We're the ones who have to deal with upset guests, not the big bosses who won't approve the repairs." Pam chatted with them a few minutes longer, gathering more insights about the hotel's operations. As she turned to leave, she overheard Patty say to her colleague, "At least that one's nice. Not like the guy in 822 who keeps complaining about everything." By late afternoon, Pam had covered most of the hotel. She returned to her room to compile her notes before dinner, organizing her observations by department and severity of issues. The picture emerging was clear. The Grand Plaza was suffering from a leadership vacuum. Cost-cutting had hollowed out the staff, leaving a mix of burnt-out veterans and unmotivated new hires. The few employees who still cared were fighting a losing battle against institutional neglect. Her phone buzzed with a text from headquarters. "Update?" Pam typed back, "Oh, worse than we thought, but not beyond saving. Some good people still here. Planning to visit the employee areas tomorrow." That evening, she dined again at the hotel restaurant, deliberately sitting in a different server's section. The experience was marginally better, but still far below the standards a hotel of this caliber should maintain. As she finished her meal, she overheard 2 servers talking at the nearby service station. "Did you get that woman in Section 3 again? The one who asks all the questions?" "No, thank God. Tom got stuck with her tonight. She cornered me in the lobby earlier asking about the conference rooms. Like I'd know anything about that." "What is she, some kind of hotel inspector?" They both laughed at this. "Yeah, right. More like someone with way too much time on her hands. Probably some blogger who thinks she's important." Pam hid her smile behind her water glass. If only they knew how close they'd come to the truth. But they'd find out soon enough. First, though, she needed to see one more critical area of the hotel, the back of house where employees let their guards down completely. Tomorrow would be very revealing indeed. Pam's alarm went off at 5:30 a.m. She sat up quickly, already mentally reviewing her plan for the day. This morning, she would observe the hotel's earliest operations, the behind-the-scenes work that guests rarely saw, but that formed the backbone of a well-run establishment. She dressed in her most casual outfit yet, dark jeans, sneakers, and a plain navy sweatshirt that wouldn't stand out. Today's mission required her to blend in even more than before. The hallways were quiet as she made her way to the service elevator she'd spotted yesterday during her explorations. A laminated sign read "Staff Only," but the door was propped open with a small wedge. Another security lapse to add to her growing list. Pam slipped inside and pressed the button for the basement level. According to the hotel layout in her welcome packet, that's where the laundry, kitchens, and staff break rooms were located. As the elevator descended, she rehearsed her cover story. She was a writer researching a book about luxury hotels and wanted to see the real side of the business. If challenged, she would claim she had permission from management. The doors opened to a brightly lit corridor buzzing with early morning activity. Staff members in various uniforms hurried past, carrying linens, pushing carts, and calling out to each other. No one gave Pam a second glance. They assumed anyone in the staff area belonged there. She followed the signs to the laundry room first. The massive space was filled with industrial washers and dryers running at full capacity. 2 workers loaded sheets into machines while a supervisor checked items off a clipboard. The air was thick with humidity and the smell of detergent. Moving on, she passed the employee locker rooms and followed the increasingly loud sounds of a busy kitchen. Through swinging doors, she caught glimpses of cooks preparing breakfast for hundreds of guests. Despite the early hour, The kitchen was already chaotic, a far cry from the orderly, professional operation she would have expected. A young cook dropped a tray of pastries on the floor. Instead of cleaning up the mess, he kicked the fallen food under a counter, looked around furtively, and grabbed a fresh tray from the cooling rack. Pam's eyes widened. That alone was enough for serious disciplinary action. She backtracked and found the staff break room. A sign on the door announced, "Morning briefing, 6:15 a.m." Perfect timing. Slipping inside, she took a seat in the back corner and pulled out her phone, pretending to check messages while actually recording audio. Staff members filed in, grabbing coffee and complaining about early shifts. No one questioned her presence. At exactly 6:15, a man in a suit entered, clearly one of the department managers. He had the tired look of someone going through motions he'd repeated thousands of times. "Morning, everyone," he said without enthusiasm. "Keith, where's the occupancy report?" A younger man handed him a clipboard. "We're at 82% today. The Richardson conference starts at noon, so we'll hit 94% by tonight." The manager, whose name badge read Doug, nodded. "Housekeeping, any issues to report?" A middle-aged woman raised her hand. "Still short-staffed on the upper floors. And we're running low on the premium toiletries again." "Make do with what we have," Doug replied dismissively. "Corporate's still reviewing the supply order I submitted 3 weeks ago." The meeting continued in this vein, with staff raising legitimate concerns and management offering no real solutions. Pam took careful notes, making sure to catch names and specific issues. As the meeting wrapped up, Doug made one final announcement. "Remember, the regional director is scheduled to visit sometime in the next 2 weeks. I don't have an exact date yet, but everyone needs to be on their best behavior when she arrives." Pam nearly dropped her phone. They were expecting her, just not yet and not like this. Her original plan had been to observe for 3 days before revealing herself. But this information changed things. The advance notice would give management time to temporarily fix issues and coach staff. Defeating the purpose of her evaluation, she would need to accelerate her timeline. The staff began filing out of the break room. Pam stayed seated, hoping to overhear more conversations. Her patience was rewarded when Tyler from the front desk entered with 2 other employees. "Late again?" one teased him. Tyler yawned dramatically. "Overslept. Not like Doug ever notices anyway." They grabbed coffee and settled at a table near Pam, completely ignoring her. "How's the front desk this morning?" the woman asked. Tyler rolled his eyes. "Dead, thankfully. But that weird lady is still here. The one who asks a million questions. The one with the messy ponytail?" The third employee asked. "That's her. She cornered me again last night asking about the hotel's history and renovation plans like I would know or care." The woman laughed. "She got me in the gift shop yesterday." "Do you source products locally? How often do you change your inventory?" Like she's some kind of expert. Tyler took a sip of coffee. "I bet she's one of those annoying TripAdvisor reviewers who think they're secret inspectors." All 3 burst out laughing. "Maybe she's the regional director in disguise." The woman suggested, setting off another round of laughter. "Yeah, right," Tyler snorted. "If that's our new boss, we're all screwed." Pam kept her expression neutral while her heart raced. Their mockery stung more than she'd expected, but it also confirmed what she'd suspected. The staff had no respect for guests or management. She waited until they left before exiting the break room herself. It was time to move her plan forward. Returning to her room, she changed into more professional attire, not her full business suit, but a step above casual. Then she headed down to the hotel restaurant for breakfast. The restaurant was busier than yesterday. Pam requested a specific section and was seated at Diane's table, the hard-working server she'd identified as one of the few conscientious employees. "Good morning again," Pam greeted her. "Busy day?" Diane managed a tired smile. "Always is. What can I get you?" After placing her order, Pam said, "I noticed the hotel seems short-staffed. Has it always been this way?" Diane glanced around before answering. "It's gotten worse this past year. New management cut corners everywhere. Used to be a great place to work. That's disappointing to hear. Who's in charge now?" "The hotel manager is Brandon Wells. Barely see him, though. He stays in his office most days." "Would it be possible to speak with him?" "I'm quite interested in the hotel's operations." Diane looked surprised. "I guess you could try. His office is on the mezzanine level." After breakfast, Pam did exactly that. The mezzanine hallway was quiet, with only a few administrative offices. A plaque on one door read, Brandon Wells, General Manager. His assistant, a young woman named Amy, sat at a desk outside. "Can I help you?" she asked, glancing up from her computer. "I'd like to speak with Mr. Wells, please." Amy's eyes narrowed slightly. "Do you have an appointment?" "No, but it's regarding some concerns about my stay. My name is Pam Bondi. Mr. Wells is very busy today. Perhaps the front desk can—" "I've already spoken with them. This requires Mr. Wells's attention specifically." Something in Pam's tone made Amy hesitate. "Let me see if he's available." She disappeared into the office, returning moments later. "He can give you 5 minutes." Brandon Wells was younger than Pam had expected, early 40s at most. His desk was cluttered with paperwork, and he didn't stand when she entered. "How can I help you, Ms. Bondi?" His tone suggested he had no interest in the answer. "I've been staying at your hotel for the past 2 days, and I've noticed several issues I wanted to bring to your attention." Wells leaned back in his chair. "We have a feedback form available at the front desk. I think this warrants a direct conversation," Pam interrupted firmly. "For instance, I observed a cook dropping food on the floor this morning and serving it anyway. Your housekeeping department is severely understaffed. 2 elevators were out of service yesterday. The hot tub has been broken for a month. And your front desk staff openly mocks guests behind their backs." Wells' expression changed from dismissive to defensive. "I'm not sure how you would know about kitchen operations or staff conversations, Ms. Bondi. But I can assure you, I make it my business to know," Pam replied. "I've also learned that your supply orders are backlogged, maintenance requests go unfilled, and employee morale is at an all-time low." Wells stood abruptly. "Who exactly are you? A competitor? A journalist?" The door opened, and Doug from the morning meeting entered without knocking. "Brandon, we need to discuss the Richardson conference," Andy stopped short when he saw Pam. "Doug, this is Ms. Bondi," Wells said tightly. "She seems very interested in our hotel operations." Doug's eyes narrowed. "You're the woman who's been asking all those questions." His tone had turned hostile. "Staff have reported someone snooping around restricted areas this morning." "Was that you?" Other voices joined in from the hallway. Tyler from the front desk appeared at the door, along with several other employees Pam recognized from her explorations. "That's her," Tyler confirmed. "The one I told you about." The room was suddenly crowded with staff, all staring at Pam with suspicion or outright hostility. "I think it's time you explained yourself," Wells demanded. "Or I'll have security escort you from the premises." Pam looked around the room, meeting each person's eyes in turn. The moment she'd been waiting for had arrived sooner than planned, but perhaps that was for the best. She took a deep breath and reached into her purse. The room fell silent as Pam reached into her purse. Every eye was fixed on her, expressions ranging from suspicion to open hostility. She could feel the tension building like a physical force. From her purse, she pulled out a business card and a small leather portfolio. Without saying a word, she handed the card to Brandon Wells. His eyes widened as he read it. The color drained from his face. "Is this some kind of joke?" he stammered, his voice suddenly higher than before. "I assure you it's not," Pam replied calmly. She opened the leather portfolio to reveal an ID badge and official letterhead with the hotel chain's logo. "As stated on that card, I'm Pamela Bondi, Regional Director for Northern Operations. I was appointed 6 weeks ago and decided to begin my tenure with an unannounced evaluation of our flagship property." The silence in the room deepened. Tyler from the front desk stepped forward, grabbed the card from Wells's limp fingers, and stared at it in disbelief. "This can't be real," he said, looking back and forth between the card and Pam. "It's very real, Tyler. Just like the conversation I overheard this morning in the break room when you and your colleagues were mocking me." Pam kept her voice level. "Professional?" Tyler's face flushed deep red. He backed away, bumping into a filing cabinet. Doug, the department manager, was the first to recover. We weren't expecting you until next week. Ms. Bondi, we would have prepared." That was precisely the point. "Doug, I wanted to see this hotel as it really is, not a polished version prepared for inspection." Pam turned to face the group. "I've spent the past 3 days experiencing the Grand Plaza as our guests do. What I've found is deeply concerning." Wells sank back into his chair. "We've been dealing with budget constraints and staffing challenges. Every hotel in our chain faces those same challenges," Pam cut in. Yet our other properties maintain higher standards with similar resources. This isn't about budget, Mr. Wells. It's about leadership and culture. More staff had gathered in the doorway, whispering among themselves as word spread about the mysterious guest's true identity. What happens now? Wells asked, his voice hollow. Pam checked her watch. Now we're going to have an emergency all-staff meeting. I'd like everyone available to gather in the main ballroom in 30 minutes. Can that be arranged? Wells nodded weakly. Good. I'll need a private space to prepare my notes before the meeting. Amy, Wells' assistant, who had been watching the scene unfold with wide eyes, stepped forward. You can use the small conference room next door, Ms. Bondi. It's empty today. Thank you, Amy. Pam gathered her belongings. As she walked toward the door, the crowd of employees parted like the Red Sea. Just before exiting, she turned back. Oh, and Mr. Wells, please make sure every staff member attends, including kitchen, maintenance, and housekeeping. This concerns everyone. The next 30 minutes passed in a blur of activity throughout the hotel. Staff rushed to spread the word about the emergency meeting. Rumors flew through the halls. The regional director had been staying among them incognito. Heads were about to roll. The hotel might even be closed down. In the small conference room, Pam reviewed her extensive notes and prepared her remarks. This wasn't the first troubled hotel she'd encountered in her career, but it was certainly the worst in recent memory. Still, beneath the dysfunction, she'd spotted enough talent and dedication to believe the situation could be turned around with proper leadership. At exactly 11 a.m., she walked into the ballroom. The large space, typically used for weddings and corporate events, was filled with nervous hotel staff. Some wore full uniforms. Others had clearly been called in from days off. All eyes followed her as she made her way to the front of the room. Brandon Wells stood by a podium looking like a man awaiting sentencing. Next to him was a woman Pam hadn't met, likely the HR director based on her professional attire. Wells cleared his throat. Everyone, as you may have heard, this is Pamela Bondi, our new regional director. She's been conducting an evaluation of our property and would like to address you all. He stepped aside, surrendering the podium with visible relief. Pam took his place and surveyed the room. Nearly 200 employees stared back at her, their expressions a mix of fear, curiosity, and in some cases, hope. Good morning, she began. For those who haven't yet heard, I've been staying at the Grand Plaza for the past 3 days as a regular guest. I wanted to experience this hotel exactly as our customers do, without the benefit of advance notice or special treatment. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Several staff members exchanged worried glances. What I found was a hotel failing to live up to its potential and its legacy. The Grand Plaza was once the crown jewel of our entire chain, a standard bearer for excellence in hospitality. Today it's a shadow of what it once was. She paused, letting her words sink in. I've observed significant issues in nearly every department: maintenance backlogs, sanitation concerns, security lapses, and perhaps most troubling, a widespread culture of apathy toward our guests. More whispers, some heads nodding in agreement. To be clear, this isn't about individual blame. This is a systemic failure of leadership and management. She looked directly at Wells and the executive team standing uncomfortably to the side. However, Pam continued, her tone softening slightly, I've also observed pockets of excellence. Employees who continue to uphold the standards this hotel was built on, often without recognition or support. She singled out a few faces in the crowd. Diane in the restaurant, who provides attentive service despite being chronically understaffed. Lisa in events, who maintains professional standards even as resources are cut. Patty in housekeeping, who takes pride in her work despite impossible workloads. The named employees stood a little straighter, surprised to be recognized. These individuals remind us that the Grand Plaza's greatest asset has always been its people. My job now is to ensure you have the leadership, resources, and support needed to restore this hotel to excellence. Pam set her notes aside and gripped the edges of the podium. Starting today, things will change. I'll be remaining on property for the next 2 weeks, working directly with each department to identify and address your most pressing challenges. Some difficult decisions will need to be made. But I promise you this, every decision will be guided by 2 principles: providing exceptional experiences for our guests and creating a workplace where dedicated employees can thrive. She could feel the mood in the room shifting, tension giving way to cautious optimism. I know some of you are worried about your jobs. Let me be clear. My goal is not to cut staff but to build the team we need. Those who share our commitment to excellence have nothing to fear. Those who don't may find this isn't the right workplace for them going forward. Tyler and a few others from the front desk shifted uncomfortably. After this meeting, I'll be sending out a schedule for department reviews over the next 3 days. I want to hear directly from each of you about the challenges you face and your ideas for improvement. No one knows this hotel better than the people who work here every day. Pam looked around the room, making eye contact with as many staff members as possible. The Grand Plaza has a proud history and I believe a bright future, but that future depends on the choices we make starting right now. I'm asking each of you to join me in recommitting to the standards that once made this hotel special. She stepped away from the podium, signaling the formal part of her address was complete. I'll be available in the Astor Room for the rest of the afternoon. Please feel free to come speak with me individually if you have concerns or insights you'd prefer to share privately. As the meeting broke up, the ballroom buzzed with conversation. Some employees hurried out, clearly unsettled by the changes to come. Others lingered, forming small groups to discuss what they'd heard. Brandon Wells approached her, his earlier shock now replaced with resignation.
Should I prepare my resignation, Miss Bondi?
Pam studied him for a moment. Do you believe you're the right person to lead this hotel forward, Mr. Wells? He hesitated, then squared his shoulders. 6 months ago, I would have said yes without hesitation. Now, I'm not sure, but I'd like the chance to prove I can be. Pam nodded. I appreciate your honesty. We'll discuss your future role after I've completed my department reviews. Until then, I expect your full cooperation. As Wells walked away, Diane from the restaurant cautiously approached. Ms. Bondi, I just wanted to say, thank you for noticing. Some of us have been trying so hard for so long. Pam smiled warmly. I know you have, Diane, and that effort hasn't gone unnoticed. Would you be willing to join me for coffee tomorrow? I'd value your perspective on the changes needed in food service. Diane's face lit up. Absolutely. Just tell me when. Throughout the afternoon, a steady stream of employees came to the Astor Room. Some came to defend themselves, others to report problems they'd been afraid to raise before. A few, like Tyler, came to apologize. I'm sorry for what I said about you, he mumbled, unable to meet her eyes. It was unprofessional. Yes, it was, Pam agreed. The question is, Tyler, do you want to be part of the solution going forward? Because I believe you could be, with the right guidance and attitude. For the first time since she'd met him, Tyler looked thoughtful rather than dismissive. By evening, Pam was exhausted but satisfied with the day's events. The revelation had gone better than she'd expected. Now came the hard part, rebuilding. The Grand Plaza's broken systems and demoralized culture. She stood at the window of her room, the same room she'd been quietly observing from for days, and looked out at the city lights. The hotel was at a crossroads, and so were many of its employees. Some would rise to the challenge. Others would fall away. Either way, after today, nothing at the Grand Plaza would ever be quite the same again.